Hi everyone, Happy New Year. I hope you're having a terrific day. It's January 9th today and we are dealing with a fair amount of snow and starting to get quite a bit colder, but that's all good. It's all part of the winter experience, I guess. So I wanted to work on my Poco bead box some more. I kind of left everybody sort of hanging. So the last time I was filming was in late 2023, so just I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, I guess. And I shared this with you and talked a little bit about it and showed you this guy as well that I will be working on today. And I'm gonna try and just do something a little bit different. I was gonna do this one again, but I want to just do something different, so I'll plan on something else. What I kind of thought I would do is do my best to do a design on the fly, I suppose. And so that's what I'm going to attempt today. And I'm going to draw, like, I don't know, maybe off of here, sort of like a little leaf shape. That kind of curls off to the side like that. And we'll just see how that goes. I have no idea. I'm just doing my best to be creative, as I mentioned. And let's get some beads out. So again, I'm using my Poco bead box that has all of these guys. I'm not going to explain them again. I did that in the previous box opening. Okay, so I thought the first thing I would do is put a bezel around here. And I'm just trying to decide if I actually want to use this color or not, because it might kind of wash out with this. So maybe I'll stick a nice bronze on there as well. I think that's what I'm going to do. We're now getting back to sort of normal temperatures. It's probably only minus 14 out there today, which is pretty bearable, not too bad at all. But yeah, minus 40's on its way soon for the evenings, which often makes me a little bit nervous for my horses, and I don't feel particularly happy having to worry about them so much. I don't have a really good barn or anything, but I've got horse blankets and food for them, so that'll keep them fairly warm. Okay. So I'm going to start with doing my bezel. I think I'll start with that color there. And on this channel, I've done a whole ton of this type of thing. I've done so much of it. So, you know, I'm not going to explain too much as I go around. But if this is something that you want to do, or to learn, then I recommend that you check out some of the other videos on my channel. I do have a whole lot on bezeling, so that should be fairly available for you to follow quite easily. So I won't really do this part as a tutorial so much. I guess I'll just kind of chat a little bit as I start to do this, and I am going to do a good bit of this off camera as well. And there we go with my my corners again. So I'm going to cut those down, but just a little bit of a refresher here. I'm just doing my my typical 4 bead back stitch, and I'll try and show you a few different techniques as I do the embroidery. I'll be back in a second. I'm just going to kind of round off my corners a little bit, make things easier for myself. That's better. It'll still catch a little bit, but not nearly as much. And I'm kind of playing around with some brand new lights here that I got for Christmas. And they're like super crazy bright. And I'm hoping it will reduce the shadows a little bit more than I typically am able to. There's one more light I might actually pull out and utilize, but we'll see how it all goes. It's a little bit strange working with these lights right now because I'm not used to this much brightness right down by my hands. Usually I have sort of an overhead light, and I'm constantly having to look up into my frame and see if I'm in frame. So I really like this 4 bead back stitch because it's an even number always, and even if I can't fit 4 in at the very end, I do know that if I fit in an even number like 2, either 2 or 4 at the very end, that my count will be perfectly even for my bezel. So rather than doing 1 at a time or a 3 stitch or whatever, I just find it a whole lot easier. You don't have to spend any time doing any kind of counting. It's just all there, all standard. So it's why I prefer to do a 4 stitch. And you can do like a 2 stitch, but I find because I'm bezeling this, it's going to be a pretty stable and sturdy stitch, so I don't have to worry too much about that. Bezeling's pretty a pretty decent stitch to hold everything together. So, and I'm just going to keep on popping up, making sure that you guys can see this. At some point in time, I'm very determined that with the camera I've got right now, I will, at some point in time, absolutely learn how to view it on my computer screen, because that is what is sort of driving me crazy, is having to look up and see. And because it's so bright down here where my hands are and so dark up there, it's really difficult. Plus I have to keep kind of half sitting up and looking up there, and it's hard for me to see. So I think that it would be so much easier for me to be able to view it on my computer screen. I don't really know how to do that right now, but I'm sure I can figure it out somehow, because if I could have my computer sitting in front of me, then that would make life a whole lot easier. I finally found a really, really nice camera stand that works exceptionally well for me to be able to film with, rather than having to peek around a camera. That was really tricky. And I know a lot of bead weavers who do YouTube videos, do find it very difficult, so I do as well. Alright, so I've done this on my channel before many times. I've shown this technique many times, so I'm not going to keep showing it. Alright, so I've just put on another group of 4, and I think here I'm going to be fortunate enough that I can put in another 2. Just let me get through here first. So if when I put these last 4 on, it looked like there was only going to be room for 1, that would have been okay. I would have just kind of stretched everything out a little bit to fit 4 in there and just leave a slight gap. You don't want to crowd your beads in. I think here though I should be able to comfortably put in 2 more beads. And yeah, they're going to fit just fine in there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my bezel. So I'm coming out of this one bead right here. You can see my thread popping out of that, hopefully. So the bead next to it I'm going to skip. So I'll pick up another bead. I'll pop that onto my thread. So I'm going to skip the next one and go through the one after that. It's going to take some getting used to with these lights, that's for sure. they're great. I'm happy to have them, but it will take some getting used to. So I'm gonna I'll do that a couple more times, and then I'm gonna just turn off the camera and keep beading. So I'm coming out of this bead here. I'm really hoping that's in camera. I'm gonna skip the next one and go through the next one after that. And I'll do this a few more times for you. Okay, so I'm coming out of this bead. I'm gonna skip the next one, go through the one after that. And again, I want to make sure that this bead sits up on top. So I'm going to bring it up there, I'm going to hold it with my thumb, I'm going to just snug my string in a little, just so I can create that bezel. I'll show you that one more time. Picking up a bead, my string is coming out right there on the corner. The next bead beside it I'll skip, and then go into the one right after that. Again, I've done a lot of bezeling before, so you can go ahead and check some of the other videos on my channel for that, or check out anybody else's channel that does a lot of bezeling with peyote stitch with the delicas. So the other one that I had made, the bezel that I did was with the round beads, and you'll see a big difference between this one and that one in terms of the bezel. And I'll show you that when I'm done. There we go. I'm going to continue to bezel this next row, and just before I get back to the end here, I will I'll stop and show you the step up. Okay, so we're just down to picking up the last bead here, and this is where it can be a little bit tricky. So I'm coming out of this bead right here. I'll have to skip this bead and then go into the next bead after, which is this one. Just get that sorted out, and that should sit exactly where we want it to. And give it a little tug, and now I need to move up into this next row, so I'll go into the next bead over. So that's called stepping up. Again, this is just much more clear in my other videos. But from here on in, it's going to be a whole lot easier. Now, where all of the little gaps are, I'm going to just pop a bead in there. I don't have to worry about skipping beads, because there's a gap to fill. And it's literally the bead on the same row. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just put my beads in all of the gaps all around here. And then I'm going to go over to the next color that I have. I might just swap another needle. I don't mind working with bent needles, but I do find that when I'm trying to do a bezel, it can be a bit challenging because the needle starts spinning around on me. Alright, so that's all I'm doing, is I'm just going to keep going around here until I come back, and I'll show you a few steps before, once again, that step up procedure, and then we'll continue on with this next color here. All right, we'll see you in a minute. Okay, so I've just got a couple more beads to pick up to fill in, and there's a gap right there. And I've got one more to fit in. So I want to go from this bead to the one directly across it. There's one down below here. We want to sit a bead on top of that. So I want to go into this bead and the one on the diagonal above it. And that's my step up right there. There we go. So I'm probably going to do just one more round, and I'm going to go over to these kind of crystal gold line. So I'm going to go ahead and go around all the way with this one, and I think that's the last one I'll do. Normally what I would do from here is I would put in some size 15s just to really pull that in nice and tight. but I don't have any, and I could, well, I do have some, but I don't have any that came with the subscription box, and I want to really try and do these projects with as much as I can from the box itself. And it's not a terrible thing. It'll still hold quite well because it is glued in, so I don't think there's going to be any real issues with that. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to finish this off all the way around, and then I'll come back when I'm done, and then we'll do a little bit of a bezel compare between this one and the previous one I did. Now, if I was finishing off or going on to another row of this, I would step up, but I'm not going to step up because I'm not going to do another row. So I'm just going to go into that bead across from where my thread's coming out. I've got an awful lot of fuzz on here somehow. A lot of the green fuzz coming out. Okay, so what I want to do now is I'm going to just follow. I'm going to just stair step down these beads on the diagonal below where I'm coming out. And just gotta look and see. So I'm going to go through those two beads there on the diagonal. Hopefully you can see that. And just pull. And then I can just go down into my fabric. And that thread is all disappeared. And I'm going to tie this off because I think it's good to tie off your embroidery projects once in a while when you finish sections. And that way, if things do come loose or break off, you don't have to fix the whole thing. You can just fix that particular section. All right, I'm gonna snip that one a little shorter, and there we go. So that's the bezel done. Let's take a look at this bezel. You can really see, I'll just kind of put them sort of side on, and you can really see that the delicas are a lot more like little, really like little bricks here, whereas these ones, they're round, of course, and they do make a nice bezel. They fit really good, but these bezels with the delica are not quite so bulked out as the round beads, and I don't mind that look. It's nice and chunky looking, and it fits the overall design, which I think is really pretty. And this one as well. I have to say I prefer delicas to bezel with because it's easier and it does look a little nicer in my opinion. But this one really suits the design here. Okay. Let's get rid of that guy. And now, what I would normally do is I would probably want to start by going around until I hit my circle and then do the outside of my circle. But I've decided to add this little element in here, which I'm going to outline with some beads. I'll figure out what color I want to do that with. But first, I'm going to get rid of my delicas. I think I'm done with them now. And I'll be right back. Back to my regular orientation. Forgive the staining on my fingers. I've been working with soaps and all sorts of things. So, staining it with turmeric and you name it. I don't know. I always seem to have like discolored nails and digging in dirt and stuff like that. So what I want to do now first is I'm going to just do an outline for this leaf. And I think I'm going to do it in these little 11s, the little pearl AB 11s, because I think it will look really nice. And it's a bit easier to do an outline with sort of the smaller beads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of a different kind of a back stitch now. Get my dog hair out of there. I don't know, I seem to be collecting kind of everything that my dogs are leaving behind. Okay, so what I want to do is, again, I'm going to pick up, probably, for this one, I'll just pick up, I'll pick up 6. And I'm going to be doing what's called, I guess, it's called a couching stitch. Push my beads back. And I want to lay them on this line here and make sure they're curved onto that line. Push them back where I want them to be and put my needle on the line right in front of them. Now, that might be a little bit too tight, but we'll see. I was going to do this as a 2 needle method, but I think I'm going to leave that for a different project. So now I've got my white string here going in between all of these beads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tack down in between every single bead. So I'm essentially just tacking down the string rather than the beads. So I'll just go from one side down the other, and I'll just pull those beads in to hold them exactly where I want them to go. And I'm pushing out with my thumb a little bit because I want this line to be slightly curved. And if I hold my thumb there while I tack these down, they'll stay in the spot that I want them to be in. And you know, for really, really big projects, it doesn't matter if you do every 1 or every 2. I wouldn't go like bigger than every 2, like every 3 would probably, I just don't know that it would be as stable as you'd like it to be. But in this instance, I'm going to tack down every 2, or sorry, every 1, because it's a small project and it won't take me an awful lot of time. And I think it just gives a whole lot more security to the piece itself. And then I'll go to my last one here. And so I think I will, at some point in time, I will definitely do the raised beadwork for you. There's 2 methods I'll show you. One is sort of an easy method, but it's not traditional, but it's stuff that people do, which works just fine. And then I'll show you the actual traditional method. And then I'm also going to show you the 2 needle method at some point in time too. Maybe on the next project, we'll see. But so now I've just kind of tacked down between these last 2 here. So now what I want to do is I want to come up, and I'm going to go through my whole line of beads now again. Sorry for tilting this away, but I can't put my needle in there without doing that. So I'm just putting my needle through that entire line of beads. And this just adds some real strength to your beadwork. It will really secure it quite nicely. So now I'm going to pick up another 6 beads. I don't want this to be a crazy long video, but I have a feeling it's going to be super long. So I'll probably end up just splitting this video in 2, like I normally do, but I won't know when I will split it into parts 1 and 2 until I actually go to edit the video. So just expect it'll probably be edited into 2 parts here. So all right, so I want to just make sure I'm on the line and pull everything tight, and then I'm going to just kind of put my little band in there again, and now I'm going to just sort of tack down everything as we go. So You can do the couching method for all of the beads in the bead embroidery project all the way, but you can also switch it up a little bit. For me, I like to at least have the outside really tacked down well with the couching stitch, or couching stitch some people call it. I know in paper making it's couching instead of couching. But for my outlines, I just like to make sure that everything that I do is really, really, really stable. And then the inside, sometimes I'll do like the 4 bead back stitch, because there's something stable for it to sit against. When you do the 4 bead back stitch, the problem is that it can end up, you get really wavy lines, you can't keep your lines straight, and over time they kind of can wobble out of place as well. So sometimes it might be best just simply to do the couch stitch and to hold everything down. But if you're going against like a circle or a form, then the 4 bead back stitch works really great, as you saw how I did the bezel here. It's not going anywhere. It's going to stay nice and snugged up there. So I'm going to come back in through my beads, and I go back by 1. So I put 6 on, but I go back to the 7th just to connect the 2 different lines together. And I'm going to give that a nice little tug, and that really holds that on nice and solidly. Those beads aren't really going to go anywhere. So I'm going to come down to the point here, and then I'll just start a new line coming back up here. And I'll finish that off, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done.